The Survivors is brought to you by our friends at the Help Hub. This podcast mentions suicide, mental illness, grief, and loss, and may be triggering for some listeners. So please take care of your mental well-being by pausing or skipping any sections that feel uncomfortable to you. And if you or someone you know is struggling, please call 988 for support.
I always feel so professional when we're in our little online studio world, don't you?
Oh, I do. I feel so professional.
You're making fun of me now. That's so rude.
In my little hovel, yes.
Yes, I know, in your little square with the yellow trim. So I thought it might be nice for people who are in this position of grieving this kind of loss that we talk about so much. I think it would be beneficial if we talked about how do we stay connected after suicide loss? And I feel like this is both a kind of a tender and a powerful episode because I feel like it can give us comfort. We always feel so untethered when we lose someone. We feel so disconnected from them. We feel so far away. And yet, there are things that we can all do to create connection and to give us comfort and even a little bit of peace after suicide loss. And so I think that having that conversation focused on those grief rituals, which I know you do and I know I do, would be important.
Yeah. So I can tell you from a suicide attempt survivor what I do for myself, my rituals. So I am coming up on 2 years now. So the first year after, I celebrated because I am still here. I picked up the phone, I called 988, and I decided to make it to the next day. And I had a little cry, and I was okay with that. But I knew all the work that I had put in to get where I was, from where I was to where I am now. And I have a whole new set of tools, so I could think about it differently and feel better about myself, about what I was going through that got me to where I was and to where I got to the year later.
Yeah. What was the thing that you did to celebrate?
I actually put up Christmas lights. I decorated the house, and I did some random acts of kindness and really had a deep talk with myself. And I told myself how proud I am. I'm proud that I did the things I needed to do.
What parts of those acts will you continue? Do you see yourself doing those things as rituals every year?
Every year.
Yeah.
For sure. Because every year that I make it to that next Christmas, I know I lived another year.
I love that. So I know that word ritual can sound a little formal. Maybe some people feel like it sounds spiritual or maybe even intimidating, but what we're talking about is much simpler. It's much more personal and meaningful. And it relates just to the way that we stay connected to the people that we've lost. And there are a million different ways that we can do that. But whatever way we choose is something that helps keep us steady in those moments when we feel like we're drifting away. So it's an intentional act. Like, think of it that way. It's an intentional act that you create or you repeat, and it's going to honor the memory of the person that you lost. It can come in the form of light a candle on their birthday, buy a cupcake and sing happy birthday and eat the cupcake in their memory. You can listen to the songs that they loved. You can write them letters. Maybe it's on a special occasion, a birthday letter, or an anniversary letter if it's a partner, or maybe it's the anniversary when they passed, or maybe just sitting in a space that reminds you of them. I know for myself, my father and I shared so much time in nature and on mountains and on trails that when I want to feel closer to my father and I want to honor my father, I go north. I go north and I find the trails that we climbed together and summit the peaks that we climbed together when I was a kid. And I sit in those spaces. I walk in those spaces remembering that I walked there with him. But they don't have to be big public declarations or big rituals that are involved and lots of moving parts. I feel like the most important ones, the most powerful ones are the quiet ones, the personal ones. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, for me, it's holding a piece of jewelry in my hand while I'm talking to myself, and it's my act of self love and self care on those days, and being at peace with the moment.
Yeah, I love that. And I love why these rituals matter, why they're so important. Grief, especially any kind of grief, but especially grief after a suicide loss, is so chaotic. It's so gut wrenching. Oftentimes, there's no outlet for that. There's no way to express that, especially in the early days and months and years. But I feel like rituals help us to somehow create an outlet. They help us to funnel, filter, collect all of that into a place. We get to remember our people without necessarily unraveling when we do it. Or okay, maybe we do. Maybe we do the thing that we think about our person while we're doing and we're crying our eyes out, and that's okay too. But they help us stay connected. And I always find that I use the word tethered because that's how I feel about my dad. I still very actively feel that connection. And I feel like having things like rituals, things that I do every year, they create a rhythm. Even though grief is so random in so many ways and so unpredictable, I do feel like things like rituals allow us to build a rhythm around them. Does that make sense?
It does. And because everything ebbs and flows, and having your own rhythm to get through those emotions, that's really important. It's okay to sit with them, and my one of my other rituals, it's not just a ritual, but I would go back and like laugh at some of the things that happened because hindsight is 2020, and I gave myself permission to laugh. You would think that it's a horrible thing to laugh at the grief and the hurt, but as I was writing my book, I found myself actively laughing at some of the things that happened, and I was okay with that. Now, if I had done that like 2 years ago, there's no way I could have laughed about it because everything hurt. But for each year that I make it to that next Christmas, I know things are gonna be okay.
Yeah. And those rituals become like carrots in a way, don't they?
They do.
Where you just begin to look forward to them. I actually think that in a lot of ways, the rituals that I've built, created, whatever word you want to use, with my dad in particular, I feel like it's actually helped to build our relationship. Like you think when you lose a person that your connection to that person is severed, that person is not there anymore, that person physically can't talk to you, you can't put your arms around them. And so there's this natural, I guess, end point where you think, okay, nothing new can be created after that point, right? That would be the logical in your brain, what your head would tell you. And it's definitely what my head told me in the very beginning. But then I realized that as I got older and as I created more and more rituals that made me feel closer to my father, it actually expanded my relationship. It grew my relationship with my father. I have a ritual when I come to the anniversary every year in the beginning of August when my father passed away. I write to him. I write a letter to him, kind of a random stream of consciousness letter. And I sometimes I'll switch hands and I'll write what I want to say in one hand and what I think he's going to say in the other hand. And you'd be very surprised what comes out when you do something like that. And I started that ritual only a handful of years ago, and it's been a very powerful one. And I feel like through those, and I put them in air quotes, conversations that we have together, I've learned a little bit more. I ask him questions that I think I might know the answer to. Sometimes what I write down surprises even me, but we can still use things like rituals to evolve our relationship with our people.
And if you're an attempt survivor, do the same thing. I wrote a letter to myself, my past self. It was very healing. And I think what I want to do starting every Christmas going forward is to do the same thing. Right back to that person, because I am not the same person I was in 2022. I'm still physically the same person, but mentally and emotionally, I've changed. I've grown. I've evolved. And I gave myself permission to be like, you know what? There's no shame. There's no stigma. There's nothing. You survived.
You know what? I just had a thought while I was listening to you say what you would do, writing to your past self. Here's a question. Would you ever consider doing like a time capsule for yourself and writing to your future self?
Ooh, I never thought about that. I could do that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't think it was anything that you and I had ever talked about, because you and I have definitely talked about you writing letters to yourself in the past. For sure, we've talked about that. But that just popped into my brain. I wonder what it would be like if you, over the next 5 years or 10 years, created a time capsule and wrote to yourself in the future.
Struggling with your mental health? Feeling lost, overwhelmed, or just alone? Well, you're not. Welcome to the Help Hub, your online destination for mental health resources, content, and tools to help you navigate whatever mental health challenges you're facing in the moment. At the Help Hub, we offer individualized resources tailored to your unique needs and community, with over 16 different categories to find exactly the kind of personalized help you need when you need it most. Because even though we all deal with many of the same challenges, we don't always experience those challenges the same way. So whether you're looking for crisis support, downloadable resources, or an extensive archive of mental health-related articles and videos, we've got you. From episodes of the Survivors podcast for suicide loss survivors and lived experience blogs to interactive tools and professional connections, the Help Hub meets you where you are and helps you move forward with strength and support. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Visit thehelphub.co today.
I kind of like that idea. I think I'm going to do that.
So I think one of the most meaningful ways that I stay close to my dad through rituals is, I mean, I've said two of the bigger ones, the writing to him and the going hiking. But do you know that every single time, did I ever tell you this? Every single time I get on a crisis call, because I'm on Crisis Lifelines as a crisis counselor. Do you know that so I have a picture right off the screen. I've showed this picture, I think, once or twice. It's a picture of my dad and me. It's the only picture of the two of us that exists, and where it's just the two of us alone. Do you know that I talk to that picture every single day before a shift? And I say good morning, and I say, let's go do this together every day. And I feel somehow just more grounded and more intentional about the space that I'm going to hold for people when I know that he's looking at me right now. He's eyeballing me right now. And I'm always glancing at that. And that's become like a daily ritual for me. And it's powerful. It's really powerful. It brings a smile to my face every single morning.
And I love that you do that because it keeps you connected, whether they're here or not. It's like me talking to myself. It's a ritual knowing that I'm still surviving, I'm still thriving. I still have bad days, but I can make it one day at a time. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I think just thinking about what one thing you just said about making it one day at a time, I think we all tend to think about things in their entirety in our brain. Like, I have to keep doing my job that I don't love, or I am in this sad headspace. When will it ever end? It's so overwhelming. I have this crazy long list of things that I have to do. We think about things, all of the things that we have to do. And isn't it so interesting when we do break things down and say, okay, I can do this today. I can do this thing right now. I can complete this task. And we just focus on being here in the moment. I feel like that's a very powerful trick.
I think it's super powerful. And that just remind yourself that you're human. It's okay to have all the feels.
That's how we're built. We're built to have all of the feels. I don't know why or when or how it became so stigmatized, this whole idea of being fallible. Like, where did that come from? I just think that we've gotten so far away as a culture from the reality that we are all human beings who feel everything, who fail, who are insecure, who are sad, who are fearful. When did people forget that? Because I feel like they really forgot.
I think that people forget that we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. But it's the rituals that we hold around the day or the person or the event that help us to remember who we are. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking it one step further and connecting it to grief. Grief doesn't go away. Grief never ever goes away. I mean, it definitely, we say this a lot, it ebbs and flows, it changes, but it doesn't go away. Rituals, those things we can count on, those little anchors, they help us carry it better. That's the whole point. They give us structure when things feel unstructured, and they create a space where our person who we're grieving kind of sort of still exists, where their memory is active, I guess is the best way to say it. And they allow us to continue a relationship like I talked about before, even if it's transformed, even if it looks nothing like the relationship you had and it is nothing like the relationship that you want, it's still a connection. And especially with something like suicide loss, when there's just so much silence, there's so much silence, and so much stigma. Rituals, they allow us to reclaim that relationship. I should say, this is how I feel about all of these things. They have allowed me, the little rituals that I do regularly, have allowed me to reclaim a relationship with my dad in a way that feels sacred to me. It feels safe. It feels very personal. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a ton of sense. And like the rituals that I do for myself are very personal, right? They're not something where I want to include everybody else in. I
And you
just
don't
want to do
have
it for
to.
me. And
You
I
don't
just want to do
you
it
don't
for
have
me.
to. Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that for me, that's super important. That it's that one time, one day a year that I get to have all the feels. And I get to reflect on how far I've come and still show up for myself.
Hey, and guess what? You don't have to relegate that to one day a year.
I know.
I know that we have these markers, we have these milestones, and you and I have talked a lot about milestones in the past, and those are valuable. They're important. They give us a connection point, and they're emotional usually. But we don't have to just restrict those feelings to those days or those rituals to those days. We're in control of them. We get to pick and choose when we use them, how we use them, how often we use them. And I love that. And they're so simple. It can even just be the way you think about something could be a ritual.
And I think just from my perspective, and maybe for other survivors, attempt survivors out there, it offers me time to offer myself patience and grace, because I need to remember that healing takes a really long time. But the fact that I'm able to show up for myself every single day, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and it should mean a lot to you because it says a lot. It's proof of the work that you do. It's proof of your intention to want to be here. So you should celebrate the hell out of that every single day.
Oh, I do.
I know
Every
you do.
day.
I know
Every
you do.
day.
So if you're listening to this conversation and you're feeling disconnected from your person who you've lost, or you're wondering, how do I honor the person who I've lost in a way that feels real? I want to invite you, and I'm speaking for G. G and I want to invite you, see what I did, to create your own ritual. Doesn't have to be fancy, just make it your own ritual. If you have one, great. If you've tried something that helped you feel more grounded in your grief, great. We'd love to hear it. Shoot us a DM. You can record us a voice message if you go to thesurvivors.net. Slide into one of our social media sites. We'd love to hear what you do, because I know for myself, there have been plenty of times that I've learned about what someone else has done. And hey, imitation is the highest form of flattery, right? I've tried the thing that maybe never crossed my mind. And now all of a sudden, because someone shared something they did, now I do it. And I love that I do it. So we want to be able to share that with this community. That's what this is. That's what we're doing. We're building a community who gets to share their tools and shares their experience and shares our rituals and shares our grief. Because when we do that, everything's a little less hard when you do it in community.
And this is such a good topic, because one other ritual I did do is, when I turned 62 this year, is that I remembered when everything went down. I was 59 and a half, and how much I've grown, and how happy I was to be alive. And I didn't get to do the things that I really wanted to do because it was because the weather was crap. But I got to sit with myself and really be proud. That was my rituals, being proud of myself for how far I've come.
That's a lot. That's important. That's a powerful thing to be able to do. I would imagine as a survivor being able to look back and say, hey, I have covered a lot of ground and I've covered it well. And I continue to get better at covering new ground. That's powerful. So the takeaway of all of this conversation is that, and we're talking specifically about grief rituals more than anything, they give shape to all of that chaos that's in our head and that it's in our life, and they help us stay connected. And here's another piece that I'm sure we've touched on it, but I don't think I said this directly. There is no right way to grieve. We know that. We know that for sure. But there's also no right or wrong way to remember somebody who we've lost. Whatever you do to honor your person, even if it's something just it's in your head, it's a thought process, or it's a small gesture, or you light a candle every year on someone's anniversary. I mean, any of those things is the right way, if it's the right way for you. And they help us feel less alone. Just remember that your grief, whatever grief you're carrying, is valid. And so is your way of honoring it too, with whatever rituals you choose.
It's such an important conversation, and offer yourself patience and grace. That's all I can say.
I'm glad we talked about this, because these are important things that people who are in the thick of it may not recognize can be so helpful. So if this kind of a conversation can create a little spark in someone's heart to do something special for someone they've lost that makes them feel a little lighter, well, then we've done what we intended to do.
Amen, sister.
Hey, I love you, Chi.
I love you, girl.
I want to come back and do this all over again with you next week. Can we do that?
Sounds like a lovely thing.
Oh, doesn't it though? All right, I'll meet you right back here. Toodaloo.
Okay. Toodaloo.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on The Survivors. Remember, no matter how tough things feel, you are enough, and the world needs you just the way you are. You're not alone in this journey. There's a community here, and every step forward counts. We're so grateful you took the time to listen, and we hope you'll take one day at a time. Just know there's always more light ahead.
Thanks for being here, friends. Just remember, help is out there in so many different places. So if you or someone you know is struggling, please call 988 and a trained crisis counselor like me will be there to help. You can also find an inclusive and comprehensive directory of mental health resources, tools, and content at thehelphub.co. Just remember that help is always just a call or a click away. We'll catch you next week. In the meantime, keep surviving.